Dillon, Dannis, and Logan Paul's performance. What do you think about that?
Part of me was like, Logan Paul is a part of the WWE. Could that have just all been scripted? Because it was just a spectacle.
That's a fair thought. Because I don't think that you really can see publicly if his fiance is actually suing him. Because we've heard stuff like this in WWE where, you slept with my wife and you stomped on my nuts. The fight was rigged.
I didn't like KSI before this, and I didn't really have a reason.
Right.
I just thought he sounded like a fucking piece of dog shit.
Right.
But now that he showed he's a pussy,
Right.
I can now actually have a reason to hate him.
What I really want to start off talking about is Dillon, Dannis, and Logan Paul's performance, man. What do you think about that?
Honestly, so I said before the fight, I said Logan Paul needs to win this fight.
Yeah, he has to win.
Like the way that this man was disrespecting his fiance.
Right, correct.
Anybody who disrespects your people like that, you got to whoop their ass.
You have to.
So he did. Part of me looked at that fight and was like, Logan Paul is a part of the WWE.
Yeah.
Could that have just all been scripted?
The whole thing?
Just because, like, I don't know. It was just a spectacle.
That's a fair thought. Because I don't think that you really can see publicly if his fiance is actually suing him. You know what I mean? It's more so like, because we've heard stuff like this in WWE where, you slept with my wife and you stomped on my nuts.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, so
It
obviously
just was one of those things.
it could be a play card.
I don't know. It just seemed like bullshit. And then watching the full fight, and it
was rough.
Looked kind of like bullshit.
It was rough.
And it was like Jake, I look at and I say he can box.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He may not be like a top boxer in the world, but like he can actually box. I don't feel that way about Logan. And so watching it back, it was an awful fight to watch.
Right.
It was just the most amateur shit I've ever seen in my life.
Sock'em,
Yeah,
robots.
it was trash. So like, as far as a product, it wasn't good. But I'm glad he got some retribution for his shorty. And then the way it ended with him trying to like.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, no.
That's what I really want to talk about.
The ending was just crazy.
So this for me, I feel like I've just seen this before. You know what I mean?
You watched it in real time though.
No, not the fight. I feel like I've seen this showmanship.
But no, I was gonna say, but
I did watch the fight in real time. I watched the whole fight. I thought I probably skipped through like the first four cards, or not cards, but the first four people, and just watched Logan Paul, Dillon, Dannis, and KSI.
We'll get to
the
KSI.
Crybaby, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what I really want to talk about is this redemption arc.
Redemption arc?
Hilarious, yeah. Because for Logan Paul, no. So hear this, okay? So a while back, Logan Paul had gotten in some trouble, and it was this whole situation where he had gotten on film like some dead bodies of him cracking jokes about it, and it wasn't supposed to happen like that, but ended up happening like that.
I got what you're saying.
Listen to what I'm saying, okay? So he ended up like publicly like getting hated for that, and that was like a huge reason why he started doing what he was doing, because of how much clout he was getting. And so he was able to propel his podcast. So what I'm saying is that since then, Logan Paul has felt, and he's publicly said things, or he's felt, or if it's just the narrative, he's felt that, obviously, like in the public eye, no matter how much he can apologize, he is never going to be looked at the same, right? As a hero, he's always going to be looked at as a villain. And now with this fake narrative that he has drawn out, like to the present day, where this fight has now got his fiance involved. And then after he wins this fight by whatever you want to call it, because it wasn't knockout, it looked like the same fight when he was fighting Floyd, to be honest with you. But it's like now at the end of the fight, you want to start talking about, oh, God's done this, God's done that, God's done this. But it's the transition for me. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, now I've seen the lights. Oh, now I've seen this. Like, I want everybody to look at me as a good person now. I'm not doing this because I actually feel this way. So it's like, to see this whole redemption arc come full circle, and then at the end, after he wins the fight, he, I want to start having a family with you, talking to his fiance, and all this gushy shit, where it's like, you weren't talking about this before the fight, you weren't talking about this at all this year, but now you've come to this realization where you've made enough money where it's like, oh, okay, I wanna do this
No, I feel
on this fake narrative, and that's why where you said the WWE card, that's a fair point. I
well,
really
no,
think that
that's what I was gonna say.
there's
I don't
some.
even think that like as far as a redemption arc, I
I
mean,
do think
I
it's a
would say
redemption arc for him. I do personally think publicly that's a redemption arc for
I
him.
don't think it is.
He's
I
back on
think
his
that
peak. Yeah, I do.
I really think that what it was is that the whole dead bodies thing, yeah, we might look at it as a bad thing and that people shit on him, but that was the reason why people knew who he was in the first place as
Right, but
far
what
as
I'm saying
being
is that
that guy. So
that's what he's placing it as his narrative.
what I'm saying is even narrative wise, that wouldn't be a redemption arc. It would be more of like, hey, I did some bad shit and people know me. Okay, now that you know who I am, I'm gonna use that to make myself more popular.
Right. So
So
if you put it in layman's terms, it's more so like, hey, I'm rebranding myself so the public doesn't shame me anymore.
you're a certain type of person and we understand that like you don't have any integrity in what you say
Yeah.
or do, when you continue showing that to the world, then nobody is gonna believe you no matter how
I hear
many
what you're
times you
saying.
rebrand.
I do think on a business level, though, and this is personally just what I think. I think on a business level that he is going to move to a point where now, like he is right now, the WWE career is moving farther than his podcast career. His podcast career is now hit its peak. Its WWE career is eventually going to hit its peak until he rebrands in that field, which I'm sure he's doing with this. He's rebranding in that field, even if it's a fake field. He's rebranding in that field, and he's going to transition strategically into some sort of channel where
Also,
he's able to make more money and capitalize because
but
he's going to stale out. The fight was rigged.
which one?
KSI, man, Tommy Fury. The fight was rigged.
I didn't like KSI before this, and I didn't really have a reason. I
Right.
just thought he sounded like a fucking piece of dog shit.
Right.
But now that
Harsh.
he showed he's a pussy,
Right, right.
I can now actually have a reason to hate him.
You watched the fight, right?
I watched the fight.
So what did you specifically think about his fighting skills, especially to get the score that they both did?
If you watch the fight, all he did was hold Tommy Fury the whole
That's
time.
the whole thing he was doing the whole time.
He just
was
tried to
doing
hold
a lot of
him.
holding. There was a lot of wrestling. Could have been wrestling,
Well, he can't fight. KSI is not a good boxer.
but everybody's going to come out and see a KSI fight Tommy Fury, of course.
Well, of course. But again, think about this though. Like, if we saw Tommy Fury fight Jake Paul, who I think is a better fighter than KSI,
Right?
and whoop his
Fury was
ass,
piecing Jake up, right?
what did you think? If KSI didn't hold him like that, KSI probably would have gotten knocked the fuck out.
I thought it was hilarious at some point in the fight. It had to have been like 5 rounds in because I think they did 6 rounds of fight. They did 6 rounds, but maybe 5 rounds in, maybe 3. Tommy Fury's literally just holding his hands up in front of the ref, like, yo, like, and like just leaning his body weight on KSI. Like, I'm not trying to hold him. He's just sitting here hugging me right now, and I can't do anything about it.
No,
Didn't get points taken off. Nothing. Tommy Fury got the points taken off for hitting KSI in the back of the head.
Yeah.
KSI freaks out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I get the strategy because if you're KSI, the only way you survive that fight is by doing what he did.
Yeah, we're running around. Could have had some better stamina.
KSI, Tommy Fury, all these niggas, like, you know, if boxing was actually good, like it should be, then we wouldn't even give a fuck about these guys. If these boxers weren't pussies and actually fought and did the big fights we want to see, then we wouldn't care. But
Not
you know,
gonna happen
that's
'cause
not
people
what
don't
it
make
is.
weight.
So, you know, we gotta, you know, be satisfied with KSI and Tommy Fury.